Hey guys, it's Betty from BakerBettie.com and welcome back. Today we are making French silk pie. And if you have never had French silk pie, you are missing out. It is essentially a really rich chocolate mousse filling that is extremely silky in texture, which is where it gets its name. It is always a showstopper at any gathering I bring it to, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we're going to get started with the crust. I have in my mixing bowl 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm adding in a large pinch of salt and a 1/3 cup of cold shortening. Now you can use butter if you prefer, or a combination of shortening and butter. Now we're going to use a pastry cutter to cut the fat through the flour until it is about the size of peas. These little pieces of fat are going to melt in the oven, making our crust really nice and flaky. Next, I'm going to add some ice cold water, about 1 tablespoon at a time, and gently stir it together with my spatula. Now it's important to be very gentle here. I am not being heavy-handed at all. I'm just being very gentle and stirring it together, which is important for a tender crust. Now you can test to see if there is enough water in your dough by gently squeezing a chunk of it together. If it falls apart, then you need a bit more water. But if it does hold together when you squeeze it, you are good to go. Now we're going to refrigerate the dough for about 30 minutes to firm it up, and then we can roll it out. So place it on a lightly floured work surface and gently roll it out to about 12 to 13 inches wide. We are using a 9-inch pie plate, so we want it to be a few inches wider than the diameter of the plate so that it sits nicely down into it. Now you could use a graham cracker crust or an Oreo crust if you prefer for this pie, but I think the saltiness of a traditional crust is best because that filling is really so rich and it just helps balance it. Now drape the crust over your rolling pin and gently transfer it into the pie plate, pulling up on the sides so that it naturally sits down into it. You don't want to stretch the dough to fit your pie plate, or that is going to cause it to shrink a lot in the oven. Trim the edges of the dough so that there's about a 1/2 inch hanging off the sides, and then fold the edges under to create a lip. Now crimp the crust with your fingers, or you can use a fork to press into it if you like that look better. Once it is crimped, use a fork to dock it a few times, then place a piece of parchment paper in it and fill it with dried beans, rice, or pie weights. Now bake the crust at 400 degrees Fahrenheit in the bottom third of the oven for about 20 minutes. Then take the pie weights off and let it bake for 5 more minutes to finish crisping up. While our pie crust is cooling, we can go ahead and make our filling. So I'm going to start with 2 sticks of unsalted butter in my stand mixer here, and I'm adding 1 1/2 cups of granulated sugar. Now I'm beating that on medium-high speed for about 3 minutes until it is really light and fluffy. Okay, next I'm adding 4 ounces of unsweetened chocolate that has been melted and cooled slightly. And this is what is going to give our French silk pie that intense chocolate flavor. Next up is 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of instant espresso powder. And both of these are actually optional, but they're really going to elevate the chocolate flavor even more. And next I'm adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now give that bowl a scrape down with a spatula, and we can move on to the fun part, which is the eggs. This is the part that's really going to thicken up our filling and make it really silky. We need 4 large eggs that are at room temperature for this recipe, and we are only going to add 1 egg at a time, and we need to beat it on high speed for 5 full minutes after each egg is added. This long beating time is absolutely necessary to get your filling to be silky smooth and to get it to set up in the refrigerator. Do not rush this process. I need to stress this very clearly. Don't rush the process or your filling is not going to be silky and set up. Now, I very rarely say that you absolutely need a stand mixer for a recipe, but this is one of those rare occasions where a hand mixer probably isn't really going to get the job done as well. And I should also note that this filling is not going to be cooked, which means that yes, there are raw eggs in the filling, and if you are concerned about eating raw eggs, make sure that you buy pasteurized eggs at the store. They will be labeled as such, and pasteurized eggs have gone through a heating process that eliminates the risk of foodborne illness. Now, once we have beaten that filling for 20 full minutes, it should look like this, a little bit runny but really silky smooth. And now we can transfer it into our cooled pie shell and let it cool in the refrigerator for at least 2 and preferably 4 hours to set up. Now we can top it with a real whipped cream, and I just made mine by beating heavy whipping cream with a little vanilla and powdered sugar. And you can also add some shaved chocolate if you like to decorate it. And to make the shaved chocolate, just take a peeler and run it across a chocolate bar to get some shavings. And that is it. This pie is such a huge hit at gatherings. Everyone goes nuts for it, and you really can't blame them. It's rich, it's chocolatey, and it has that silky, smooth texture. It's going to be a fast favorite in your recipe repertoire. You can find the full printable recipe linked in the description box, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and leave me a comment. Let me know if you tried this recipe and tag me at Baker Bettie on social media so that I can see what you made, and I'll see you guys next time with another recipe tutorial.